All right. So, good morning, everyone. We are recording now. Okay. So, right. So, I did a poll about the assignment. It seems most students, except one, prefer to have all 5 assignments with the lowest score being dropped. So, chances are we will go with that. There is one student who prefers to not have to submit the last 2 assignments for evaluation. So, depending on their circumstances, given this pandemic and everything, I might make an exception for them if it seems reasonable and if no other students have a problem with that. Because while the whole country is going through a tough time, different people are facing the difficulty in a less or more severe manner. So, I hope that everyone is okay with me making an exception for a student if it's really necessary. If there's any objection, please write to me. But yeah, if it's really necessary, I might make an exception for someone who is facing a more difficult time than others. Right? Maybe they have cases in their family, in their immediate family or extended family. We don't know. Okay. But anyways, the plan is to have all 5 assignments for everyone, and I will be dropping the lowest score. And I might make an exception for any student who is facing more difficulties. Okay. Good. So, and yeah, based on everyone's performance in the first 2 assignments, assuming people keep up that sort of performance, honestly, I feel most students are going to get an S grade or an A grade. I don't see anyone performing really poorly in the course. Okay, but of course, don't get complacent. Do your best. Okay, and if there are any difficulties going further, just keep me posted and I will make the necessary arrangements for you. Okay, good. Any questions or concerns? All right, if not, how many classes left? Right, so yeah, that's a good point. I think the main part of the syllabus is going to be essentially finished today. What I mean by that is everything from Bondi and Murthy will be that I plan to cover will be covered today. After that, I am planning to dive deeper into matching theory. So this will be beyond what is covered in Bondi and Murthy. Matching theory being my own research area, I will choose some material from some research papers or some other manuscripts. The stuff will still be on the syllabus in the sense that you will still see some questions on the last assignment related to what we are going to cover. So we will continue the lectures until 7th of May. So that will be all the regular lectures. And then I will conduct a poll to see if students want me to cover any additional material which is absolutely out of the syllabus. So classes end on 7th of May. Despite the fact that we lost 1 week, I think it's fine. Given this pandemic, I think it's okay to make some adjustments to the syllabus. And if there are any lectures beyond 7th of May, based on a poll that I will be conducting, that will not be covered on the assignments or any evaluations. Okay, so those lectures are completely optional. You may or may not attend them. Okay, and perhaps maximum we would go to 14th of May, no more than that. Okay, great. So any other questions or concerns? All right. So let's get started with what we were doing last time. So we were trying to prove this lemma. Let me just remind you, the hypothesis is that we have a connected graph where there are no essential vertices. What that means is that for every single vertex, there is a maximum matching that does not match that vertex, right? Uh, so under this hypothesis, we want to prove that the graph is hypomatchable, which means that whenever you delete any vertex, the remaining graph is a perfect matching, right? So it's not immediate why the hypothesis should imply the conclusion. That's why we are going to prove it, right? So we are trying to prove this, and what we discussed towards the end of the last lecture is that it suffices to show that for any two vertices x and y distinct and a maximum matching M will saturate at least one of x and y. Okay, so both of x and y cannot be unmatched by the matching. Okay, and if we show this, then we discussed why this implies that the graph is indeed hypomatchable, right? So that discussion is written down here. Okay, so now it just remains to prove this claim. Okay, and I wrote here that we are proving it on Thursday, so let's start. So there are at least two ways to think about the proof. Either you can think about it as a proof by induction on the number of vertices, on the distance between x and y. So either you can write it as a proof by induction on the distance between x and y, or you can write it as a proof by contradiction. So I'm going to take the contradiction approach, but it's really the same idea. Okay, so what we will do is, let's suppose this is not true. Suppose there exists x and y vertices that are distinct and a maximum matching M that leaves x and y unsaturated, or maybe I will say exposed, right? So they are not matched by the matching. Supposing this is true. So in that case, we are going to choose x and y that satisfy this statement, and the distance between x and y is minimum among all possibilities. We choose x, y, and the maximum matching M such that the distance between x and y is minimum among all such choices. Okay, and what we will do is we will contradict the choice by finding another pair of vertices where the statement is true and the distance is lesser, right? So the goal is to contradict the choice of x and y. Okay, all right, so we have this matching M. So let's say M is the, I don't know, the red colored matching, and we have these two vertices that are not matched by M, x and y. So what we'll do is we'll take a shortest path between x and y. Okay, let's say this path is P. Shortest path in the graph G between x and y. Okay, notice first that x and y cannot be adjacent, because if xy is an edge of the graph, both of these are M exposed, so I can include this edge in my matching and I will get a bigger matching, right? So clearly this cannot be an edge of the graph. Note that xy is not an edge of the graph G. That means that this path P has some internal vertices, right? So let's pick some internal vertex V. Let V be an internal vertex of the path P. Okay, good. What can we say about V with respect to the matching M? Can someone tell me? What can you say about V? Is it M exposed or is it not M exposed, or we cannot say what it is? Anyone? The vertex V, can it be exposed by this matching M? Remember, we chose X and Y and the matching M such that the distance between X and Y is minimized, right? Notice that the distance between X and V and the distance between V and Y, they are clearly lesser than the distance between X and Y, right? So that means that V cannot be M exposed. Then if it was M exposed, we would contradict the choice of X and Y, right? We would have chosen X and V or V and Y. So clearly, by the choice of X and Y, V is M covered, right? So there is some edge of M incident at the vertex V. All right, let's now use our hypothesis. We know that the graph has no essential vertices. In particular, the vertex V is not essential. That means that there is a maximum matching by hypothesis. G has a maximum matching N such that the vertex V is N exposed, right? So whenever you delete any vertex, the graph should still have a maximum matching, right? So there is some matching, some maximum matching out there that leaves the vertex V exposed, right? And notice again that by choice of X and Y, each of X and Y is N covered. Because if one of X and Y was N exposed, then you would have chosen that vertex and the vertex V and the matching N, right? So both of these have to be N covered. Let's say N is our blue colored matching. So this is the matching N. Okay, so we have a red matching that leaves the vertices X and Y M exposed, and we have a blue matching that leaves the vertex V M N exposed, right? So just to remind you, X and Y are M exposed and N covered, and the vertex V is N exposed but M covered. Okay, well, we've got two matchings, so you know what we are going to do. We are going to take the symmetric difference of these two matchings, right? Whenever you've got two matchings, this is a good idea to try. Consider the graph formed by the edges M symmetric difference N, right? Both of these are maximum matchings, If you take the symmetric difference, first of all, you will get paths and cycles, even length cycles and paths of whatever length. So this comprises paths and even cycles. However, I claim that even the paths have to be even length. They cannot be odd length paths. Can anybody explain why we cannot have odd length paths? Supposing you had an odd length path. So what would it look like? You would start with maybe red edges, and the alternate edges would be blue colored, for example. Or you could start and end with blue. So why can't this happen? Why can we not have an odd length path in the symmetric difference of these two matchings? Anyone see that? Supposing there is an odd length path, do you see a contradiction to something?
Both matchings are like covering V. I mean,
Not necessarily. We don't know. So at this point, let's say we don't know where X, Y, and V are. They may or may not be on the path, on this particular path. What I want to look at is something more general. Why can't there be odd length paths at all? Right? So think of a path that does not contain X, Y, and V. Do you see a contradiction? I'll give you a hint. M and N are maximum matchings. If there is an odd length path, then something goes wrong.
There's a unique maximum matching.
Sorry?
There's a unique maximum matching.
No, the graph could have two maximum matchings.
Yeah.
Maybe you mean
okay.
something else. So a graph could very well have two maximum matchings. That is not a problem. A graph could have actually many maximum matchings. If you want, you can take an odd cycle, right? In an odd cycle, you have lots of maximum matchings. But I claim that if this is the case, if there is an odd length path, then either the red or the blue is not a maximum matching. If there is an odd length path, then one of these two is not a maximum matching. So in this case, in the drawing I have made, the blue one, which is N, right? N is not a maximum matching. Well, because remember, this is a path in the symmetric difference. So what I can do is for the blue matching, I can take this path and I can replace all the blue edges by the red edges. Right? So I will keep the blue matching as it is. So everywhere else, I will keep it as it is. So supposing there are some other blue edges in the graph, those I will keep as they are. But on this particular path, I will switch the blue edges for the red edges. And notice that this path has 3 red edges and 2 blue edges. So now I have a bigger matching, but we know that both the blue and the red are maximum matchings. So you cannot find a bigger matching than either of them. Okay. So the argument is that if there is such a path, Q, then in this particular drawing, I will take the blue matching. I will take the symmetric difference with the edges of Q is another matching bigger than the blue matching. Okay. And this is a contradiction because the blue matching is a maximum matching. Right? Is that clear? I'm switching 3 edges. I'm switching 2 edges for 3 edges.
So you're saying interchanging red and blue inside this?
Right. Just on this path.
Sir, but then the left vertex, could have a blue edge for it.
Right, it cannot because this is in the symmetric difference. So that's a very good point. So this, by the definition of this graph, these two vertices are m, they are n exposed in my drawing. So they are n exposed because if they were not, then your path would be bigger. So I'm taking, remember, I'm taking a path component in the symmetric difference. So that means that this component is, you cannot make it any bigger. Is that making sense? There is no blue colored edge here because then the path would be longer than what I have drawn.
So you're taking the longest path in a sense.
No, well, not necessarily. I'm just looking at the symmetric difference of the two matchings. And the symmetric difference is going to be a bunch of paths and cycles. So I'm taking any one path in this symmetric
Okay,
difference.
okay. Yes,
So,
sir. Got it.
right? So it's a whole component. You cannot make the component any bigger. I've taken the whole path component. Okay? So, right. So maybe I should write it more precisely just to make it clearer. What I mean here is that each component of this graph is either a path or a cycle. And my claim is that none of the path components can be of odd length because then you would get a bigger matching than M or N, and that will be a contradiction, right? And the cycles are even length anyways because they have to red, blue alternate. So they have to be even length. Okay. So both the paths and the cycles are of even length. Good. Any questions or concerns? Okay, so now I want to think about these three vertices, X, Y, and V. Okay. Each of these vertices, what can you say about them? Do they belong to a path or do they belong to a cycle? And if they belong, okay, so that's the first question. What about X, Y, and V? Do they belong to paths or cycles? In the graph. Anyone? Remember, both of X and Y are M exposed but N covered, and the vertex V is N exposed but M covered. Right? So what is the degree of these vertices in this graph? Is it 1 or is it 2? So they're going to be degree 1 vertices, right? Because each of them is exposed by one matching and it's covered by the other matching. So either you're going to have a red edge, but then you won't have a blue edge, or you'll have a blue edge, but then you will not have a red edge, right? So they are all, X, Y, and V are all degree 1 vertices in this graph. And that implies that they have to be ends of a path. So each of them is an end of some path. Right? Is that clear? Are there any questions or concerns? All right. So what I want to do is I want to take one of these paths and I want to switch one of the matchings on these paths to get some contradiction. Okay, so that's the plan. So each of X, Y, and V is going to be an end of some path. I claim that there is a path such that one of X and Y is an end of that path, and the other end is different from x, y, and v. So claim that there exists a path P, or maybe I'll call it Q, in this graph such that x or y is an end of Q and the other end W is not V, X, or Y. Why is this true? Well, let's just think about it. So look at the path that starts at X. Well, if it does not end at V or Y, then I'm done. Supposing it ends at V, then there is another path which starts at Y, and that path will not end at X or V because X and V are already taken by the other path. Okay, and if the previous path, oh, I see. The only problem is both X and Y could be ends of the same path. Then this statement is not true. So I need to convince you that X and Y do not belong to the same path. Does anybody see why? X and Y do not belong to the same path. Well, this is because if they belong to the same path, well, remember X and Y are both M exposed vertices, right? So then what will your path look like? It will have to start with a N edge, which is a blue colored edge. And it will also have to end at a blue colored edge. Because you can't have red colored edges at X and Y. They are M exposed. So there are no red edges at X and Y. So then you have to start at a blue edge and you have to end at a blue edge. That means that the path is of odd length. Right? And we know that there are no odd length paths. We have already discussed that. So this cannot happen. So they cannot belong to the same path. Otherwise, this path would have odd length contradiction. Okay. So then our argument works, right? Then you look at the path containing X. If it ends at V, then you take the other path, which starts at Y, and the other vertex will not be X, V, or Y. Okay? Fine. So now we have this path Q. Let's say it starts at Y. I can relabel X and Y, it doesn't matter. And the other vertex is W, which is not X, V, or Y. Okay? So what does this path look like? Well, it starts with Y. So that is an M exposed vertex. So it has to start with the blue edge. And then red and blue and then red. Sorry, I forgot to change the color. Okay, so we have this path in the symmetric difference of M and N. Right? So just to remind you, that means that there is no red colored edge on this end and there is no blue colored edge on this end. Okay, this is our path Q. So what we want to, let's just go back to what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to find a pair of vertices that are both exposed by a maximum matching and their distance should be less than the distance between X and Y. If we find such a pair, we will contradict the choice of X and Y because we chose X and Y to have minimum distance, right? So now we can actually do that. we can actually modify one of our matchings to make sure that we have a pair where we get a pair of vertices that are both exposed and their distance is less than x and y. Okay. So what we will do is we will switch the matching. Let me see. Yeah, we will switch the M matching. We will switch M, which is the red matching, on this path. Okay, but I'm going to keep it the same everywhere else. So just to give you an example, I have a bunch of red edges in the graph. This is a matching. And in particular, I have this path, which is red and blue in color. Okay, so think of this as the whole graph. You have a bunch of red edges. There are a bunch of blue edges that I have not drawn here. What I have drawn is a particular path, which is our path Q. Okay, this path starts at the vertex Y and ends at this vertex W. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the red matching as it is and just switch it on this path. So on this path, we will take the blue colored edges instead of the red colored edges. So our new perfect matching, maximum matching, is the same edges as before, right? This is basically the symmetric difference idea that we have done a few times, but I'm covering it in full detail. So we'll keep the same matching as it is. On this path, we will switch the red edges for the blue edges. Okay, so this gives us another maximum matching. So consider M star to be the symmetric difference of M and the path Q, right? So I'm just switching on this path. Note that this is a maximum matching because it has the same size as the matching M because the path is of even length. So I'm switching some number of edges, in this example 2 edges, for another 2 edges. Note that the cardinality of M star is equal to the cardinality of M. Thus, M star is a maximum matching. What can we say about the vertices that are covered and exposed? Well, I don't care about the other vertices. I just want to look at the vertices X and V. Note that X and V are not on this path. Right? This path starts at Y, it ends at W. And so X and V cannot be on this path because they are ends of the path. They are ends of some path. So they cannot be ends of this path. So that means that X and V have not been affected by our matching, right? So they were, give me a second. Maybe I made a small mistake. Right. I want V to be exposed. I see. So X is M star exposed. Um, yeah, there is something I messed up here. I want the vertex V to be exposed, but that's not happening because I did not switch the matching at the vertex V. Hmm. Yeah, I think I messed up somewhere here. So let me consider the path that contains V. That path will have to, it might end at X or Y. If it ends at X or Y, then there is no problem because I would switch the matching, right? Um, right, let me make a change to the argument. So I'm just thinking aloud here. Let's see if it works out. Supposing I take the path that contains the vertex V. Okay. The other vertex could be X or Y, or it may not be X or Y. So if it is one of X or Y, I could switch the matching here. So this would be a blue colored edge. This would be a red colored edge. This would be a blue colored edge, and this will be red colored, right? X and Y are M exposed. So yeah, it has to start with a blue colored edge on X. Sorry. And end with a right. End with a red colored edge on V. So in this case, what I would do is I would switch my matching on this particular path so that V would be exposed and X would be covered. Okay, so I have a bunch of red colored edges. And what I will do is maybe I'll construct a new matching in the green color. So I will keep it the same everywhere. And I will switch it on the path. So on the path, I will take the blue colored edges. And in this case, now the vertex V is exposed by the green matching, and the vertex Y, which I have not touched because it is not on this path, is also exposed by the green matching because it was exposed by the red matching. And now V and Y will contradict the choice of X and Y. Okay. And if the path starts at V and does not end at X or Y, then also there is no problem. Okay. So I think I made a small mistake. All right. Right. So what I want to do is I want to take the path that contains the vertex V, right? V is going to be an end of some path. So I will take that path. So here is the argument. Consider the path that starts at V. This is a path Q in the graph M symmetric difference N. Okay. So I'm taking the path that contains the vertex V. That path, it might end at X or Y, or it might end at some other vertex. Okay, it doesn't matter. So the other end of Q might be one of X and Y, but I will adjust notation. So I might relabel X and Y, adjust notation so that Y is not an end of Q, right? Remember, X and Y are symmetric, so I can just relabel them so that one of them is not going to be an end of this path, right? Good. All right, so now look at this path. So it's the same idea as before, it's just that I messed up some details, right? So we are looking at this path, which starts at the vertex V, and it ends at another vertex, W, which could be X, but what we know is that W is not equal to Y. Okay, so if it was Y, I would relabel X and Y, right? Okay. So now consider the matching M star, which is our green colored matching, which is the same matching as the red colored matching, except that on this path, I am switching the red edges for the blue edges. Okay, so it's the same as the red one. The only difference is that on the path Q, I have taken the blue edges instead of the red edges. And notice that the cardinality of M star is the same as the cardinality of M. This implies that M star is a maximum matching. Okay. What about the vertices V, X, and Y? Well, because I have switched the red matching for the blue matching on this path, right? The vertex V is not covered by the new matching. So this is M star exposed. Note that the vertex V is M star exposed. Okay. And what about X and Y? Well, X could be covered because X could be on this path, but the vertex Y is not on this path, right? So remember Y was M exposed. Because we did not make any changes to anything that is not on this path, the vertex Y is still going to be exposed by the new matching. Okay, so now we have a maximum matching that leaves the vertex V exposed, and it also leaves the vertex Y exposed. So M star is a maximum matching that leaves V and Y exposed. But this is a contradiction because the distance between V and Y is lesser than the distance between X and Y. Remember, this is the shortest path between X and Y. That is how we had chosen the vertex V. We chose vertex V to be an internal vertex on this path. So the distance between V and Y is strictly less than the distance between X and Y. Thus, V comma Y contradicts the choice of X comma Y. So yeah, sorry for the yeah, at some point I got confused and I did something which did not make a lot of sense. So you can ignore those parts. I think all of this stuff was unnecessary, right? Good. So yeah, the proof basically Goes from here and then it goes here. Okay. All right. So yeah, are there any questions or concerns? It took a bit longer than I expected because I messed up. But yeah, hopefully the main idea is clear, right? We found this path in the symmetric difference of the two matchings. And on this path, we switched one of the matchings to get our contradiction, right? In particular, we got a maximum matching, which leaves both the vertices v and y exposed, right? But that contradicts the choice of x and y because of the distance being lesser between v and y than x and y, right? So that means that the claim we set out to prove, which is that for any two vertices, if you take a maximum matching, it will saturate at least one of them is true, right? We proved this claim. And once we prove this claim, it follows by the argument we covered in the last lecture that the graph is hypomatchable. For every single vertex, when you delete that vertex, the remaining graph is a perfect matching, right? Okay, good. So that is the proof of this lemma 16.10, and proving this basically proves the Tut-Burge formula, or the Tut-Burge theorem actually, right? So this was just the last missing piece of that theorem. Okay, any questions or concerns? Anything in this proof that was not clear that you would like me to go over again? So one of the main ideas in matchings, as you are seeing, is taking the symmetric difference of two matchings, right? It was also an important idea in edge colorings. So whenever you have two different matchings, it's always a good idea to think about the symmetric difference of those two matchings, right? Good. So this is basically all I want to cover from the matchings chapter in Bondi Murthy. I wanted to tell you about some conjectures, but I think I will leave it to tomorrow. So I think it's section 17.4 in Bondi and Murthy, which has these very beautiful conjectures. Let me just take a quick look. Yeah. So tomorrow we will discuss some conjectures from 17.4 in Bondi Murthy. So this is the edge colorings chapter, but the conjectures are about perfect matchings because, well, what is an edge coloring if not covering by matchings of the graph, right? So we'll just discuss these conjectures. They are reminiscent of the cycle double cover conjecture. So if you want, maybe just go back through the cycle double cover conjecture. So they are very similar in flavor to the cycle double cover conjecture. Instead of covering by cycles, we are going to cover by matchings, by perfect matchings of the graph, right? So maybe just take a look at the cycle double cover conjecture and refresh your memory about that. And once we finish this, which should take about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes tomorrow, I want to switch to going deeper into matching theory. So first we'll do this, and then we will go deeper into matching theory. So this is going to be beyond what is covered in Bondi and Murthy. Okay. In particular, I want to focus on the theory of perfect matchings in graphs, and I want to tell you about some cool theorems. I don't know how many things we'll be proving, I might state a few things without proofs, but I will definitely show you a few proofs which are more graph theoretical. There is some algebraic content which I don't think I will be proving. But again, those things which will not be proving will not be tested on the assignments. So I might state a few things without proofs, but I'll give you the more graph theoretical aspects of the subject. Okay, good. Are there any questions or concerns? I'm here for another 5 minutes or so, so please feel free to stay back. And maybe I'll stop the recording now.